The sun was just beginning to fall over Kruger, painting the savannah gold. Herds had vanished, the air was empty, thick, waiting, and in the heart of the dry grass, 7 lionesses stood alone. Their flanks were thin, their faces marked by days without rest. They had no males, no cubs to defend, only themselves and the last patch of territory they still called theirs. They had once been queens of this valley, a powerful pride, feared even by hyenas and nomadic males. But drought and war had stripped everything away. One by one their hunts had failed, buffalo had moved north, zebras had vanished, and in their absence another predator had risen from the south, swift, relentless, and many. Wild dogs, 60 of them. The packs of Kruger had grown bold after the drought, spreading across the open plains in vast, coordinated hunts. They didn't challenge lions in open war, not at first, but hunger makes everything bolder. And when one pack found the scent of 7 starving lionesses near the Nuwaswitsonso River, the outcome was written in the dust. And tonight, you'll witness it, the last battle of the 7 lionesses. Before we begin, take a second to support our pride. Like this video, comment where you're watching from, and share it with someone who loves the wild. Every roar, every story, every moment of courage exists because of you. The first signs came with the wind. A ripple across the grass, faint but deliberate. The lionesses lifted their heads almost in unison, their ears turning toward the sound. Kruger's plains were silent, yet beneath that silence ran a pulse. Rhythmic, approaching, alive. The dogs were coming. From the ridge south of the Nuwaswitsonso River, the pack appeared like a moving storm. Dozens of lean bodies flowing through the tall grass, dust curling around them. They didn't roar. They didn't snarl. They moved in silence, guided by one purpose: exhaust, surround, and kill. For the 7 lionesses, that silence was worse than any sound. Their leader, the oldest female with a torn ear, crouched low. Her muscles tightened, eyes locked on the horizon. She had survived droughts and rival males, but never something like this. Wild dogs were chaos made flesh, faster than hyenas, more united than jackals, and fearless in numbers. She knew the pack wouldn't strike all at once. They would test first, probe, then bleed their enemy slowly. The lionesses spread out, forming a loose crescent around a small patch of acacia trees. The ground was hard and dry, no tall grass to hide in, no place to retreat. Their best chance was to hold their ground and face the pack head-on. Dust clung to their coats as the sun dropped lower, turning the sky a deep amber. The first wave came suddenly. 4 dogs darted forward, their paws cutting through the dust. They barked and snapped, drawing attention, trying to provoke a chase, but the lionesses held still. One dog got too close, a blur of brown and white, and the oldest lioness struck. Her paw hit with the force of a hammer, and the dog's body folded into the earth. The others didn't mourn. They scattered, regrouped, and circled wider. It was a test, and they had learned what they came for. The lionesses were strong, but not fast. The pack adjusted immediately, spreading in a wide arc, their coordination unnerving in its precision. By the time the sun touched the horizon, the circle had tightened. 60 predators, moving as one, closing in from every side. The lionesses growled low, tails flicking in agitation. Their breath came heavy, nostrils flaring. They could smell the dogs now, sharp, musky, filled with hunger. Then came the first real assault. 10 dogs rushed from the west, darting in and out, snapping at legs and tails. The lionesses struck back with roars that shook the ground, but every attack met only empty air. The dogs retreated, regrouped, and came again from the east. The circle was alive now, pulsing with energy, testing the pride's defenses from every angle. When darkness finally fell, the pack vanished into the tall grass. Only their eyes remained, glinting in the moonlight, waiting for weakness. The lionesses stood together under the pale sky, their muscles trembling, ears flicking at every sound. They knew the truth. Tonight would not end with rest. It would end with blood. The night swallowed the valley whole. Moonlight spilled across the plains, silvering the grass, but the world below it was nothing but shadow and sound. The lionesses stood in a tight formation, backs touching, their eyes glowing amber in the dark. Around them, the dogs moved unseen, circling, whispering through the dry grass like ghosts. The silence wasn't peace, it was preparation. A soft growl rippled from the youngest lioness. She had caught a flicker, two shapes, low to the ground, darting left to right. Then another shadow flashed behind her. The pack was testing again, closing the circle one step at a time. Each rustle, each footfall was a feint meant to draw attention away from the real attack. The lionesses turned constantly, claws carving lines in the dust. Then, without warning, the first strike came. 4 dogs burst from the darkness, their barks sharp, cutting through the night. They rushed the smallest lioness, biting at her hind leg before she could spin. She roared in pain and fury, lunging at the attackers. 2 dogs scattered, but one was too slow. Her jaws snapped around its spine, and the sound cracked like thunder. The body went limp. The dogs vanished again, leaving only echoes. The lionesses regrouped, panting, their breaths clouding in the cool air. The wounded one limped, but refused to fall back. Every few minutes, the pack returned. 5 here, 6 there, never all at once. Their tactic was merciless. Tire the lionesses, bleed them, then finish them when dawn came. It wasn't a fight of strength anymore. It was endurance versus strategy. Hours passed like years. The dog's eyes flashed from every direction, sometimes close, sometimes far, always moving. The lionesses struck whenever they could, but they were fighting shadows. The night amplified every sound. The rustle of paws, the crunch of bones beneath grass, the hiss of breath before another rush. Each attack was met with claws and roars, but each one left another scar. The eldest lioness, her torn ear flicking at every sound, knew the rhythm now. The dogs attacked in waves, 30 seconds of silence, then a burst, then silence again. She began to anticipate the pattern, coordinating the others with low growls. When the next wave came, they struck together. 3 lionesses leapt forward in perfect timing, catching one dog mid-air and another by the throat. The pack retreated, yelping into the dark. But victory in Kruger never lasts long. From the ridge, a new chorus of howls rose, deep, collective, and close. The rest of the pack had arrived. 60 dogs now, maybe more, their coordination precise as a machine. They no longer probed, they pressed. One by one, they lunged into the clearing, forcing the lionesses into constant motion. Dust and fur flew under the moonlight. The grass flattened beneath the chaos. By midnight, the lionesses were drenched in blood, some their own, most not. The ground was littered with twitching bodies of dogs, but for every one that fell, 3 more replaced it. The air reeked of sweat, iron, and death. Yet the 7 still stood, their eyes defiant, their breaths ragged but unbroken. Every roar was a warning. We are not done. And still the pack did not retreat. They circled wider again, howls echoing through the valley, calling to others miles away. Kruger's night was alive now, trembling under the rhythm of life and death. The siege had only begun, and before sunrise, the savannah itself would decide who deserved to see another dawn. When dawn finally rose over Kruger, it carried no promise of safety. The sun emerged dull and red through the dust, turning the plains into a haze of ash and gold. The lionesses had survived the night, but survival had come at a cost. Their bodies trembled with exhaustion, their paws cut open from the dry earth. The oldest female's breathing was shallow, her sides rising and falling like bellows. Around them, the dogs still moved, shadows against the light, patient and calculating. The pack had not retreated. They had evolved. As the first rays cut through the grasslands, the wild dogs spread across the valley in perfect formation. It wasn't chaos anymore. It was choreography. 60 predators, splitting into subgroups of 10, fanning out in arcs that closed the horizon. The lead male, his face streaked with old scars, moved with calm authority. He had learned from the night. Lions were strong but predictable. Strength could be broken. Predictability could be exploited. The lionesses tightened their circle, tails twitching in unison. The ground beneath them was painted with blood, both theirs and the dogs'. The carcass of 2 fallen attackers lay half buried in the dust, swarmed by flies. The smell was thick, heavy with iron, but hunger still burned in the pack's eyes. The dogs had no fear left, only rhythm and instinct, and the rhythm of the hunt was accelerating. They began to move again, but not as one wave. 2 flanks broke off, sprinting through the grass to flank the lionesses from the east and south. Another group held back, forming a living wall that blocked any escape toward the riverbed. It was a military maneuver born not from intelligence, but from generations of instinct honed by survival. The lionesses were trapped in a shrinking cage of motion. The youngest lioness, limping from the wound she had suffered before dawn, fell slightly behind. The pack noticed immediately. In the wild, weakness is louder than any roar. Within seconds, 5 dogs broke formation and lunged for her. She turned to face them, snapping and slashing, but the ground betrayed her, uneven, dry, slipping beneath her weight. 1 dog clamped onto her leg, another on her shoulder. She struck back, crushing one under her paw, but 2 more replaced it. The others tried to reach her, but every path was blocked. The air exploded with sound, barks, roars, and the scream of dying flesh. Dust rose in violent clouds as the lionesses fought to reach her. When they finally broke through, the dogs scattered, leaving the ground trembling with movement. The youngest was down. Her eyes blinked weakly, her breaths shallow and broken. The oldest lioness pressed her forehead against hers, a single gesture, brief, final. Then she stood again, her face streaked with blood and dust, and roared until the valley shook. The sound sent a wave through the pack, but not fear, focus. They adjusted instantly, surrounding tighter. Their tactics became relentless. 2 distract in front, 3 strike from the side, 1 always attacking from behind. The lionesses fought like soldiers, backs together, every movement exact and desperate. Each clash ended with another wound, another drop of blood darkening the soil. Hours bled into the heat of midday. The sun hung high, scorching the savanna. The air shimmered, blurring the horizon, and the scent of decay spread across the field. The dogs moved faster now, unbothered by the heat. They had endurance, the lionesses did not. Their breathing grew ragged, their strikes slower. Still they refused to retreat. Every roar was defiance, every strike a declaration that they would not die quietly. By early afternoon, 6 lionesses remained. The pack had lost many, but it didn't matter. For every dog that fell, 3 filled its place. The valley was no longer silent. It pulsed with movement, with dust, with death. And above it all, circling under the white sky, the vultures had begun their descent. The savanna had made its choice. By midday, the air over Kruger burned like a furnace. The sun hung high and merciless, draining every ounce of strength from the land below. The ground shimmered with heat, and even the vultures circling above seemed to falter under the weight of the sky. The lionesses stood surrounded by silence, 6 now, their coats darkened with blood and dust. Every breath was a growl, every heartbeat was a countdown. The wild dogs had retreated to the shade for a moment, not from mercy, but calculation. They watched from a distance, tongues hanging, bodies heaving, but their eyes never left the circle. They were waiting for the sun to do what their teeth could not, break the lionesses from within. The heat was the ally they didn't need to command. Minutes stretched like hours. The lionesses shifted positions constantly, protecting their flanks and the weakest among them. The eldest moved slower now, her sides scarred and trembling. Every time she breathed, blood leaked from the wounds along her ribs, but her eyes stayed fixed on the horizon. She knew this pause was a lie. The next assault would not be another test, it would be the endgame. The first bark came like a signal, sharp, brief, final. Then the grass moved again, waves of motion, dozens of bodies flowing low and fast. The second wave had begun. The pack came from three sides at once, dust exploding behind them like smoke trails. The ground thundered beneath their charge, the rhythm of organized chaos. The lionesses roared, forming a line instead of a circle. It was their last strategy. Face the storm head-on. The clash was instant and violent. Claws met teeth, dust met blood. The sound was deafening, a mix of growls, barks, and bone. One lioness caught a dog mid-leap, tossing it aside like a rag. Another spun, catching two more with her jaws. But the pack didn't stop. They flowed around every defense, striking again and again from every angle. Within minutes, the line broke. The youngest of the remaining six stumbled, her hind leg torn open. She tried to retreat behind the others, but the dogs swarmed her. 5 of them latched on, dragging her down as she clawed and thrashed. The others turned to save her, but every rescue left another side exposed. One lioness fell, then another, their roars fading into the sound of panting and snapping. The ground became a storm of movement, the air filled with the metallic scent of blood and the thick haze of dust. The surviving lionesses fought like fire, bright, furious, but dying fast. They no longer attacked to kill, they attacked to delay, to make the pack pay for every life taken. The lead dog's face was torn open by the oldest lioness, his muzzle split, but he didn't retreat. He lunged again, fearless, unstoppable. By the time the sun dipped past its peak, only 4 lionesses stood. The rest were silent, scattered across the field, their bodies half buried in the trampled grass. The pack regrouped, panting, their coats streaked with crimson. For a brief moment, the battlefield stilled. The dogs watched the 4 survivors as the wind shifted through the valley. Both sides were broken, yet neither would yield. As the vultures began to circle lower, the surviving lionesses lifted their heads to the burning sky. They didn't roar. They just stared, defiant, unbroken, knowing what was still to come. And if you were standing there, would you have believed they still had the strength to fight? Tell us in the comments what you think. Could the 7 have survived if help had come sooner? If you're moved by their courage, support our pride with a like and share this story with someone who loves Africa's wild heart. The light was fading again, and with it, the last illusion of balance. The valley of Kruger lay still under a heavy sky, the kind that pressed down like a weight on every living thing. The wild dogs were silent now, their bodies blending into the tall grass. The 4 surviving lionesses stood in the open, chests heaving, their sides streaked with sweat and dust. They were ghosts of what they had been at dawn, scarred, limping, but still unwilling to yield. The second wave had ended, but it left scars far deeper than the wounds on their skin. The dogs had learned every weakness. They knew which lioness stumbled when she turned left, which one hesitated before striking. They had measured them, mapped them, and now they were waiting for the exact moment to break them. Every second that passed was a tightening of the noose. The eldest lioness raised her head toward the west, where the sun was bleeding into the horizon. The light turned the savannah red, as if the earth itself was remembering the blood spilled there. She gave a low growl, a sound halfway between command and farewell. The others responded, gathering close once more. There was no more strategy, no more formation, only instinct and defiance. The attack came without sound, a rush of bodies through the grass, low and fast, kicking up a cloud of dust that swallowed everything. The lionesses turned to face the noise, but it came from everywhere at once. The pack had divided again, 3 groups converging from 3 sides, driving them toward the ridge. The dogs didn't bark now. They didn't need to. The hunt was pure rhythm. The first to fall was the second eldest. A dog lunged at her flank, another at her face. She struck hard, claws splitting open one attacker's skull, but 5 more piled on. They moved like waves. One hits, one retreats, the next takes its place. Within moments, she was on her side, rolling, biting, roaring until her voice cracked. The others tried to reach her, but each step forward met teeth. When they finally broke through, it was too late. Her breathing had stopped. The third lioness went soon after. She had been the strongest in the morning, the one who had leapt first into every charge. Now she was spent. A single misstep sent her sliding down a slope of loose soil. The pack followed instantly. 10 dogs fell upon her, their jaws clamping onto her legs, her shoulders, her throat. The sound was chaos, short, fast, final. The others roared from above, but the ridge was steep, and by the time they reached her, the silence had already spread. Only 2 remained. The eldest, her mane patchy with scars and age, and the youngest survivor, barely grown, trembling but alive. They pressed their backs together, the world spinning in dust and blood around them. The air smelled of death and hot earth. The pack circled again, smaller now, cautious, but still many. They had lost more than a dozen, but the price meant nothing. Nature doesn't count its dead, it only measures what remains standing. The dogs closed in, one step at a time. The lionesses roared in unison, their voices hoarse, their claws carving lines into the soil. For a heartbeat, everything froze, the moment before the final storm. Then the last charge began. Bodies collided in a blur of fur and fury. The lionesses fought with nothing left to lose. Each strike was pure desperation, every breath a rebellion against extinction. When the dust finally settled, the valley was quiet again. The sun had vanished below the horizon. The grass moved softly in the evening wind, brushing against the still forms that lay across it. The pack regrouped in the distance, silhouettes fading into the twilight. And in the heart of the clearing, 2 lionesses lay side by side, motionless but facing the same direction, as if still watching the horizon they had vowed never to abandon. When dawn returned to Kruger, the world was unrecognizable. The air was still, the wind gone, as if the valley itself held its breath. The battlefield stretched silent beneath the soft light, trampled grass, broken earth, streaks of dried blood marking where life had been torn apart. The smell of iron still lingered, heavy and sour, clinging to every breeze. The war had ended, but it had not yet been forgotten. The vultures came first. Dozens of them, black silhouettes gliding down from the sky in slow, methodical spirals. They landed in the dust with hollow thuds, their wings folding like cloaks. Around them, the wild dogs gathered what remained of their fallen. Some limped, others were smeared in dried blood, their sides heaving. They didn't celebrate. They fed in silence, their eyes flat and unfeeling. Victory in Kruger was never triumph. It was simply survival. The 7 lionesses lay scattered across the clearing. Their bodies looked peaceful now, almost asleep, as if the fight had been nothing but a dream carved into the dust. The oldest rested near the ridge, one paw stretched toward the horizon. The youngest, barely grown, was beside her, facing the same direction, their bodies nearly touching. Even in death, they had held formation. As the light rose, the valley began to move again. Jackals appeared from the east, cautious and silent, their noses twitching. A few hyenas approached from the riverbank, drawn by the scent of blood, their laughter echoing faintly before fading into caution. None dared approach the lionesses at first. Even lifeless, their presence commanded fear. By mid-morning, the vultures had claimed the sky entirely. They circled endlessly, casting fleeting shadows over the field. Every gust of wind stirred clouds of dust, revealing the prints of the battle, paw marks overlapping in chaotic patterns like the memory of motion carved into the earth. To the untrained eye, it was just chaos. But to those who had seen, it was a map of courage and desperation. The pack began to move on. Their bellies were full, their energy restored. The survivors limped toward the river, their shapes dissolving into the shimmer of heat and distance. Soon, the valley was quiet again. Only the scavengers remained, picking through what the storm had left behind. The circle of life had closed, indifferent to the tragedy that had unfolded. By afternoon, rangers found the site. They had followed the sounds during the night, unsure of what they would find. What they discovered instead was a story, the aftermath of one of Kruger's fiercest confrontations: tracks, blood trails, and silence. No humans had witnessed the battle, yet its evidence spoke louder than any roar. The rangers took photographs, marked coordinates, and whispered in disbelief. 7 lionesses had stood against 60 wild dogs. None had survived, but they had taken more than a dozen of the enemy with them. In the weeks that followed, word spread across Kruger. Guides told the story to visitors in hushed tones. Rangers repeated it by the fire at night. They called them the Sisters of the Dust, 7 lionesses who refused to run, who chose to fight until the end. Their tale became a warning, a legend, and a tribute to the savannah's brutal balance. And as the sun set over that same valley weeks later, 2 lionesses were seen walking along the ridge, outsiders, young nomads, exploring the territory that once belonged to the fallen 7. Life had returned, as it always does, but the ground beneath their paws still remembered the roar that never faded, even in death. Weeks passed before the valley of Nwazwitsont so began to heal. The rains came late that year, falling over the broken ground where the 7 lionesses had made their stand. Grass grew again, soft and green, covering the scars left by battle. The vultures were gone, the scent of death replaced by the sweetness of wet earth. But even as life returned, the silence of that place remained. It was no longer just a valley. It had become a memory. Rangers called it the ground of the 7. They said no other pride ever stayed there for long, as if the soil still carried the spirit of those who refused to flee. When the wind moved across the plain, it made a sound like distant roars, faint but heavy. Guides spoke of it to visitors in hushed tones, pointing to the horizon and saying, "That is where they stood." By the time the next dry season came, a new pride appeared along the same ridge. 3 lionesses, young, lean, and fearless, claimed the land. They hunted in the same grass, drank from the same cracked riverbed, and slept under the same trees that had once shaded the fallen. Some believed they were descendants of the old pride. Others said it didn't matter, that their return was proof that Kruger never forgets its queens. At dusk, rangers sometimes heard roars that didn't match any pride nearby, long, low, and echoing from nowhere. It was said that on certain nights, when the air was still and the moon was full, those 7 voices returned to remind the valley of what it had witnessed. Not ghosts, guardians. Their roars were not cries of pain, but of warning. Strength must always rise again. Their stories spread across Africa. Campfires, documentaries, photographs, all carried their legend forward. To many, they became symbols of loyalty and defiance. To others, they were proof that courage exists, even when death is certain. The Sisters of Kruger, they were called, the 7 who stood when they could have run, who fought when they had nothing left to win. Every ranger who passes that ridge still stops for a moment, not to mourn, but to listen, to remember the ground trembling with their roars, the dust glowing red in the morning light, the silence that followed. Nature forgets quickly, but legends endure. And in Kruger, legends have claws. The valley itself seems different now. Herds graze calmly where blood once flowed, and the wind moves gently through the acacia trees. But if you stand there long enough, you can still feel it. The heartbeat of 7 lionesses echoing through the soil. They may have fallen, but they were never defeated. Stories like theirs remind us that true power isn't in survival, it's in standing when everything else falls. They fought for each other, for their land, for the balance that defines Africa's heart. And though they are gone, their spirit remains with every lioness that hunts beneath Kruger's sky. And if you wish to honor this story and support our pride, use the super thanks below. Whether it's $5, $20, or $100, Every contribution helps us keep these real legends of Africa alive for the world. Your support keeps their roars echoing through time.